This is the episode where the Lizzie Borden case blows wide open, where secret affairs, vanished murder weapons, mysterious strangers, botched police work, and impossible timelines collide. Once you step past the official version of events, the story twists into a maze of cover-ups, accomplices, alternate suspects, and unanswered questions that have fueled more than a century of theories.
Was Lizzie protecting someone? Was someone protecting her? Or is the truth buried the moment the blood dried? Tonight, we dive into the conspiracies that refuse to die.
I'm Jimbo.
And I'm Dustin. And this is Dark Discoveries.
Welcome back to Dark Discoveries. By now, we've built a complete picture of the official Lizzie Borden narrative. The early life, the family tension, the murders, the trial, and the strange, isolating life she led afterward. But here's the thing. The official narrative is only half the story. The other half is made of whispers, rumors, and theories that emerged almost immediately after the murders. Theories about secret affairs, conspirators, cover-ups, illegitimate children, mysterious strangers, and accomplices hiding in plain sight. The Lizzie Borden case isn't just a crime story. It's a mystery that people have spent over a century trying to solve because nothing about it fits easily into one explanation. How did two people get killed in a small house without anybody hearing anything? How did the killer avoid leaving blood trails? Why no murder weapon? Why no confession? Today, we're stepping into the fog, into the conspiracies and alternate suspects that have kept this case alive long after the Bordens were buried.
Exactly. Because once you step outside the courtroom transcripts and the police records, you find a sea of theories, each one trying to fill in the gaps that the official investigation never resolved. And honestly, the case almost requires conspiracy theories because it just doesn't make any sense any other way. The timing is too tight. The logistics are improbable. The behavior of the people in the house is just weird enough to raise eyebrows. And the police botched enough of the early investigation that they left room for a lot of doubt, imagination, and speculation to grow in the cracks like weeds. In this episode, we're digging into the most compelling alternative theories, the ones backed by evidence, the ones supported by the locals, and even the wild ones that still get people debating today. Some of these theories make Lizzie look innocent, some make her look guilty, and some suggest that the truth is never meant to be discovered.
So, Dustin, we're going to talk about several theories here. So the first theory is going to be the stranger in the house theory.
Stranger in my house.
Oh, no. So let's start with the simplest conspiracy that there is. The idea that a stranger, someone completely outside of the family, snuck into the home and committed the murders. At first glance, this seems highly unlikely. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing was stolen, and no evidence that anyone unfamiliar has been seen near the property. But proponents argue that the house had multiple entry points, and Andrew was known for leaving doors unlocked during the day. A killer could have slipped in, hidden upstairs or even in the cellar, and waited for the right moment, killed Abby, and then killed Andrew. The theory gained traction because it solves one of the biggest issues in the case, the lack of blood evidence on Lizzie. If she didn't kill them, then someone else must have. Supporters point to strange visitors reported in Fall Rivers around that same time, transient workers, disgruntled tenants, or individuals who disliked Andrew's business practices. They also note the stomach illness in the days before the murders, suggesting poisoning or an attempted break-in.
But here's the center point. This theory relies on too many coincidences. A stranger would have needed perfect timing to kill Abby unseen, to hide undetected for over an hour, and then kill Andrew quietly with Bridget upstairs. Who's to say, though, that somebody wasn't hiding in the house overnight? If you really want to get after somebody over some bad business practices, would you lay in wait, hiding inside until you had the right moment? It's probable, it's plausible. And the murders weren't sloppy. They were personal, precise, and efficient. Abby received 19 blows, Andrew 10. Neither screamed. This suggests the killer wasn't panicked or rushed. And it's hard to imagine a stranger having that level of control in someone else's home. Still, the intruder theory remains popular because it gives Lizzie an escape route from the guilt, and because police never thoroughly searched every inch of the home or the neighborhood. If there was somebody else, the investigation was too flawed to catch them. It's not impossible, just improbable. But as far as conspiracy goes, it's one of the more grounded ones.
So, Dustin, if we're taking the stranger in the house conspiracy on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate do you think that could be?
I'm going to say it's a 5 out of 10. It's plausible. I mean, you have a ticket into the game. We don't know if you have a seat yet, but like I said, somebody can lie in wait. That's totally possible. We know that nobody screamed, so it was a surprise attack. So they were attacked from behind. Probably the first blow knocked them out, so there was not a lot of noise to be made. And then, if you are an intruder, you kill Abby, you go hide away, and then you just wait for the next opportunity, which was only a couple hours.
But you got to think, why wouldn't you, if you were going to do that, why wouldn't you kill the rest of the family too? Why wouldn't you kill Lizzie? Why wouldn't you kill the maid? If you knew the routine and everything. And number two, I don't think if it was a stranger, I don't think it was technically a stranger. I think it was someone they knew. That's what
a business associate or a customer or a client. And I agree with you. If you have a beef with your boss or a coworker or anybody like that, an associate, somebody that you've done business with, you're probably going to just attack them. You're not going to attack more than one person unless you thought you were seen and you reacted.
But let's think about it. I think it has to be somebody, for this to be true, I think it has to be somebody that Abby knew, not necessarily the father.
Unless you had some trust.
Right. Because she got smacked by she got hit from behind, remember? So she probably wasn't expecting it. So now let's move on to the second theory. The theory that Emma, the sister, knew, or did she help? So now we're going to move into a darker possibility that Lizzie wasn't acting alone and that her older sister Emma may have played a role. Emma was, quote, out of the town during the murders, staying in Fairhaven. But some theorists suggest she knew the murders were coming, approved of them, or even helped plan them. Emma had every motive Lizzie had. She had resentment towards Abby. She was frustrated with living under Andrew's rigid control and the fear of losing their inheritance. Some versions of this theory suggested Emma left town to create an alibi while allowing Lizzie to carry out the plan. Others claim Emma actually returned secretly that morning, committed the murders, and then slipped away unnoticed. Sound far-fetched? But Emma's later behavior, especially her sudden split from Lizzie in 1905, fuels speculations that she knew more about the murders than she ever revealed.
So this theory raises more interesting questions. If Emma truly believed her sister was innocent, why cut ties after decades of loyalty? Why leave Lizzie completely isolated at Maplecroft? Emma hinted near the end of her life that her conscience couldn't allow her to remain with her sister. A cryptic comment that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories. Some think Emma had heard a confession. Others think that she learned something that made her fear Lizzie. Some others believe Lizzie helped create an alibi and lived with the guilt long enough that she finally needed to distance herself. The biggest problem with this theory, of course, is logistics. There's no evidence Emma ever returned to Fall River that day. But as every part of the case, the absence of evidence is the same as evidence, I guess. You know, you never know. There's so many unknowns. The Emma theory is one of the most compelling, especially because the two sisters were truly involved. They took that secret to the grave. So if, like I said, why would Emma, it would be an alibi with her being gone, but you have to kind of know or sense something's coming. You know, I'm sure her life wasn't much better than Lizzie's.
But then again, number one, do we have eyewitnesses that place Emma in Fairhaven? Is there a train receipt? Is there a bus fare? Is there any of that?
There's no bus back then, Jimbo. It's 1892. There's no bus.
And number two, horse and carriage, whatever. And number two, let's think about it, though. That would be somebody that the mother knew and wouldn't be suspicious of. Just saying.
I'm looking here at some pictures at the both of them. One was, you know, looks like Lizzie was a little bit more fuller faced. So it wouldn't be easy for one to dress like the other and try to, you know, make somebody think that she was gone and then kind of dress up and then sneak around, you know, while one's inside, the other's outside, drawing the attention.
So Dustin, where are you going to put this conspiracy on the rank of 1 to 10 that Emma helped or knew something about it?
A 2. I mean, it's one of those, like I said, we can dream about it happening, but there's no hard evidence. They don't look enough alike to try to pull a switch or anything. If anything, she probably assumed that she knew what really happened if Lizzie did kill her.
Well, because remember, she said we thought maybe part of the split was that we talked about was that Lizzie actually confessed to her. So that could be part of it. So for me, I'm probably going to say about a 4 because without eyewitness proof or anything that she was there in Fairhaven, there's always a possibility, man. She could have snuck back into the house. She wouldn't even had to hide. She could have just stayed. But the only thing is, what did her uncle see her before he left? You know, did the maid see her? We don't hear any of that in the trial or anything. So, okay, I'm probably going to drop it down to a 2 too because there was nothing ever mentioned.
Didn't even mention in the trial as far as what we talked about. And I could see if they both planned it that maybe Lizzie was going to try to do that, maybe just off her stepmom, I don't know, and then leave. But like I said, her dad was the one that was really the controlling person. She'd have to get them both, and
maybe her dad
getting on a bus and leaving would have been too much of a red flag after.
And maybe her dad came back sooner than he was expected home too. You never know.
I don't know, unless if it was more just inheritance and you knocked her out so she didn't get it, and then you didn't have time to clean up the mess, so you did both. That's more probable.
So let's talk about the theory number 3, that someone else was in the house. We've already touched on this a little bit. But one of the most intriguing conspiracies suggests that someone known to the Bordens was inside the house that morning. Someone the family trusted enough not to scream. Someone who could move quietly enough not to alert Bridget. And someone who could have easily escaped suspicion. The leading candidate for this theory is John V. Morris, who was Lizzie and Emma's maternal uncle, who had stayed in the house the night before the murders. Morris had a rock-solid alibi after leaving the house that morning, but some argue that alibi was almost too perfect, almost as if it had been rehearsed. Morris was involved in discussing property matters with Andrew the night before, including topics related to inheritance and, hey, farm transfers. If you die, where's your farms going to go? If there was conflict over finances, this could have been the motive. Some versions of the theory suggest Morse was still in the house when Abby was killed, slipped out unnoticed, and later staged his movements with precise timings to appear innocent.
And here's where the conspiracy actually meets some credibility. Morse both had the motive and the opportunity, but no hard evidence ties him to the murders. Still, his behavior that morning does raise some eyebrows. He remembered incredibly specific details about his alibi and timelines, conversations, exact locations, the kind of detail that most normal people aren't thinking about. when they're going to retell, their story. And when he returned to the house after Andrew's murder, witnesses said he didn't seem shocked, merely concerned. That emotion flattens and makes some theorists suspicious. But at the end of the day, the Morse conspiracy leans heavily on interference, not proof. It's entirely possible that he was just an awkward, unemotional man who happened to visit during the worst time imaginable. Or he played a role no one ever uncovered. Sorry, for some reason my Alexa's going nuts. Or was he played a role that nobody ever uncovered? We said that. The Borden murders attract conspiracies because everyone, every family member, every visitor looks strange underneath this microscope.
Yeah, so Dustin, were you putting this, the theory that there was someone else in the house that was known to the Bordens?
And like I said, this is probably going to be your most credible theory. Still a theory, there's no fact. When you're talking about inheritances and who's going to gain what, that could have been a family farm, and that's her uncle, so that's his brother. He could say, well, I'm not going to leave it to you. I'm leaving it to Abby, or whatever. And then, okay, I'm going to get left out of this. If he goes ahead and just kills her while he's gone, you can eliminate it. Like, he could have left, double back, neck back, and then he reappears because he never really left.
Well, one thing, I believe it was their maternal mother's brother.
Maternal mother's, yeah. Yes. Sorry.
So
details. I'm trying to make it connect. But with that being said, if you've got that person there, it's possible that he got interrupted, and then they had to go ahead and just kill them both.
So 1 to 10?
We're going to go about a 6. Like I said, it's still not rock solid, but it's the most plausible theory so far.
Well, let's think about it. If it was the maternal uncle of Lizzie and Emma, was she close to him? Is it something where, hey, I'll do this, but you clean it up, so I got to get out of here because I need an alibi?
Yeah. Maybe. And then if she killed, if the stepmom dies, it at least stays, whatever was there stays on that family, and the married in person doesn't benefit from it.
Right. So I'm probably going to lean about a 5 on this. It could have happened.
We're getting warmer.
We're getting closer to what we think happened. But I just don't think we're quite there yet. So now we're going to come to another theory. This is a family secret that there was an illegitimate child involved in this theory. So buckle up. This is one of the most controversial topics we're going to talk about in these theories on this episode, I'm sure. This is the claim that Lizzie was not just Andrew's daughter, but possibly his abused daughter, and that the murders were an act of long-term retaliation. This theory is rooted in speculation, not evidence, but has persisted for decades. Some argue that the emotional distance in the household, Lizzie's peculiar behavior, and her resentment towards Abby could be explained by deep family trauma that was never spoken aloud. Proponents of this theory point to Victorian secrecy, social repression, and the fact that abuse victims often display the kind of emotional contradictions that Lizzie did. Calm in crisis, distant, unpredictable. The theory also proposes that Abby may have known or tried to intervene, making her a target. It's a dark interpretation, but one that arises from the eerie emotional climate inside the Borden home.
We've got to be clear, like crystal clear. There's no evidence behind this. Nothing concrete, nothing documented historically. It's a total theory, entirely on the psychological interference and assumptions about Lizzie's behavior, a lot of the behaviors in the house, how she was treated, her living at home at 32, not really ever mentioning anything about a boyfriend, a lot of things. So it when you look at the tension that is there, it makes you wonder if there was some type of abuse. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail because it's theory and we want to try to keep it, on the up and up a little bit. Still, people find it compelling because it explains more deep than financial arguments. It also reframes Lizzie not as a cold-blooded killer, but a victim driven to a desperate act. It's a means of an escape. The modern criminologist suggests this theory may explain Lizzie's intense emotional disconnect, not because she was calculating, but because she was traumatized. Whether it's true or not, it's one of the theories that refuses to die because it taps into the darkest corners of human behavior and the secrets family keep behind closed doors.
Now, Dustin, do you think it could have been possible that Andrew, will just cover your ears, kids, sexually abused Lizzie and maybe even got her pregnant at some point?
It's one of those when you look at the behavior, like they said, you look at the abuse, the mental manipulation, and it seems like, the family went to church, but it almost still seems like they were probably still kind of to themselves and reserved. It's possible. I mean, the methods of birth control back then and doctor, care is going to be a lot different than today. So it was probably harder to cover up.
Well, let's think about it. Her dad was frugal. He's not going to pay if she's pregnant to have an abortion either. We know this, right?
Well, he's a businessman.
It's true.
And he can't let that secret get out.
Could he have been the one that was supplying the poison to try to maybe cause a miscarriage?
That's totally, totally plausible. And when you get to that, it's, oh man, it's such a dark way to go, and you don't want to result that, but you're putting the pieces together, and it just seems like that's kind of the character. Like, the guy's cutting off feet of the deceased to save money and make money by putting him in a smaller coffin. I'm not going to put a lot past him.
So, scale of 1 to 10, Dustin, the theory of the illegitimate child theory.
Oh man. And I'm going to add in there, like, maybe that I don't know if she would have ran off and maybe got pregnant by somebody else. And that could be why maybe he covered that up, and maybe things got a little bit crazier when she was younger. And then that's why she was so reserved and kept in the house, and why things got bad with her. But I don't even want to give it credibility because I don't want to think about it, but it's definitely like a 6 or a 7 on the scale of something that could happen. It would explain a lot.
I'm going to go down with a 2 on this one. I just think that,
I hope you're right.
well, I'm just saying, just because of her, how well known she was throughout the city, her church, in the streets, because they always said that outside she was perfectly normal. She was an outstanding citizen. But what happens behind closed doors, you never know what happens.
And if you're going to get beat or anything or abused when you go home, you're going to put on a front.
Right. So that's a 6 or 7 from Dustin, a 2 for me. So now let's go on to the next theory. That Bridget Sullivan, the maid who saw too much. One of the most compelling alternate suspect theories involves Bridget Sullivan, the family's maid. Bridget was in the house for both murders, yet surprisingly, she neither saw nor heard the attacks. Some theorists speculate she may have been involved, willingly or unwillingly. Was she complicit? Did she witness something she later hid? Or was she coerced into silence by Lizzie? A few versions of the theory suggest Bridget and Lizzie conspired, perhaps fueled by shared resentment against the Bordens. Others suggest Bridget killed Abby during a confrontation and Lizzie killed Andrew to cover it up. And still others believe Lizzie committed both murders, but Bridget helped clean up or dispose of evidence in exchange for protection, money, or silence.
Bridget as a suspect raises good questions. She had the motive if she resented the family, especially Abby, who was reported to be pretty difficult. She had the opportunity, she had the access, and her testimony contains odd gaps. Like the faint laugh she heard, the unclear timeline of her movements, The fact that she was supposedly inside the house, but yet heard nothing. But at the same time, Bridget was a young Irish immigrant woman with a little power and very few resources. If she was guilty or involved, would she really have held up under the pressure during questioning? Or was she simply another victim in the chaos, too terrified to speak? The theory remains popular because it fills in the logistical gaps in the timeline. If Lizzie had help, everything becomes more plausible.
All right, Dustin. 1 to 10.
I wouldn't say that she was involved. This is probably going to be my least likely theory that could have happened. But I could also see it going on the other side. But I personally think it's going to be like a 2. She had the means, motives, and opportunities. She's seen everything that went on. They're not going to maybe they did hide the abuse behind closed doors when she wasn't around, awake, out and about. Who knows? But she has nothing to lose, like everything to lose. You're an immigrant, you're trying to make it and just survive. If you was to do something, they'd probably lynch you. They would, you wouldn't have a fair trial. So I don't think she would risk that. It would be risking her life.
You say she was an immigrant?
I'm pretty sure she was an Irish immigrant.
You sure?
I was thinking maybe I'm mixing it with something else.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you putting it?
I run a 2.
All right. For me, this is the one that, this one really leans itself towards really could have happened, because let's think about it. Who's the one person in the house that knows how to clean up stuff and clean it up good? The maid. She cleans probably the dishes. She cleans we know she said she was cleaning the windows inside and out. I wonder, let's think about it. Was there windows in Mrs. Abby's Borden's room? If there was,
there had to be, because I looked at the picture of the house and there was windows everywhere.
Well, I'm saying, if that's the case, did she wash those windows? And if she did, when did she wash those windows? Because you don't hear anything about she was up there washing the upstairs windows or anything, right? She said, I was washing the inside and outside windows. To me, this is probably one of the more possible ones. I'm leaning towards an 8 on this one. I think that Lizzie probably, if this theory is true, that Lizzie probably did do it. And she told Bridget, hey, you're going to help clean this up, or I'm going to tell my dad you did it. We'll sell you down the river and you'll never work in this town again. So for me, it's a strong 8. This is probably one of the best theories we've had so far, I do believe.
So now you want to call me out. Bridget Sullivan's nationality depends on which famous Bridget Sullivan you mean. But most historically notable that the maid in the Lizzie Borden case was Irish, born in County Cork, Ireland, and immigrated to the U.S. in 1886. And then you have another one that was born to English and Irish parents, is what they say. But what we do know is a lot of her life isn't easily accessible, but we do know that she ended up marrying and moving to, of all places, Montana. Little fun fact.
So now we're going to move on to the 2 killer theory. So this theory simplifies one of the biggest challenges in this case. How could one person kill Abby upstairs without being detected, clean all that mess up, and then kill Andrew downstairs within such a tight time frame? The theory proposes that 2 people were involved, one who killed Abby and one who killed Andrew. This could have been Lizzie and a partner, or it could have been Bridget and Lizzie, not Lindsay, Lizzie, or Morse and Lizzie, even her uncle, or even 2 entirely unknown individuals that were like business partners of Andrew's or associates and got shafted. The logic is appealing because it divides the impossible sequence of events into manageable parts. One killer acts upstairs, one acts downstairs. Neither risk being discovered by the other household member at the wrong time. It explains the strangely quiet nature of both murders and the lack of blood on Lizzie. She may not have killed Andrew at all.
That's definitely a possibility. So, as conspiracy theories go, this one's a elegant one because it solves logistical problems, but it also complicates everything else. If there were two killers, how did they coordinate? Why was no confession or hint that's ever surfaced over time? How did they both avoid detection? Still, two killers, this theory remains one of the more enduring because it allows the facts to fit without bending them very far. It acknowledges the physical limitations of one person committing both murders and the unusual timing of the attacks, whether Lizzie was one of the killers or not. Conspiracy theorists argue that she may have had help. And honestly, given the tight timeline, it's not the craziest idea out there.
So, Dustin, what's your thoughts on this one?
Two killers is definitely a very plausible thing. I'm going to go back to the uncle. I mean, it's Morse had something to gain. Lizzie had something to gain.
Emma had something to gain.
Emma had something to gain. Yes, she wasn't there, but
Bridget could have had something to gain.
Everybody had something to gain. I mean, it's the means, motive, and opportunity was there for everybody. I'm going to say that there probably was two people involved. I'm going to say this is an 8. I just don't know the details on who.
And I'm going to have to agree with you. I think out of all the ones that we have covered so far, I think this ties into the theory right before this with the maid. I think Lizzie was involved at some point somehow. I just don't know how detailed she was involved in. Because you got to remember, they said some of that force that was used to kill Abby and her dad, it took a lot of force. So does that signify a man helping?
And we didn't go into on the trial really I can't remember if we really touched on it though, but I believe it was Abby's skull was like almost, because we touched a little bit. They took all the skin off of it. It was, a skull, but they said it was just so beat up you couldn't really identify it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to think that, and they always tell you, poison's the woman's way to kill somebody. Blunt force trauma, that's a anger. That's a male type murder. Definitely more plausible there.
Right. So now we're going to move on to the police failure theory, the case that was never
10. Don't have to start 10.
So one of the most grounded conspiracy theories is simply that the police failed the case so completely that the truth was lost forever. Officers allowed people to wander through the crime scene. They didn't search Lizzie for blood. How can you not search the people in the house? I mean, you would notice if there was blood splatter on her face and her hair, brains in her hair, skin, whatever. They didn't secure evidence at the scene. They didn't document the rooms properly. They didn't preserve potential weapons. They interrogated Lizzie while she was drugged. They let the dress burning go uninvestigated for days. They approached the case with Victorian assumptions, treating Lizzie too delicately and ignoring possibilities that didn't fit their biases. Under this theory, the conspiracies don't matter because the truth was mishandled before it could ever be known.
Absolutely. I think this theory has the most weight. The police don't know how to investigate crimes like this, first off. Forensics barely existed. Gender norms influence the investigation. As a result, the case is just has more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. This theory says Lizzie might have done it, or maybe she didn't. But the investigation was so flawed that no theory could ever be proven. It's not glamorous. It's not mysterious. But maybe it's the truth. The case failed because the system failed.
And we've talked about it before. The police let down the community in this. It let down the family. They've just didn't do their jobs properly just because of the social status of this family. To me, we obviously are giving this both a 10. I already know because of all the plot holes and all that. They could have probably narrowed down a suspect. They probably could have even charged Lizzie with it if they would have done their job correctly. I mean, they tried to charge her anyway, but even the thing where they took her in for the inquest and they didn't even read her rights, that's why that got thrown out of court. So there's been a lot of screw ups on the police in this investigation.
Yep. And to say that any investigation is perfect is crazy. So every investigation will have the flaws. The ones that get solved fast are the ones that have minimal. This one, like I said, it's flawed from start to finish. You didn't treat people like, you hate to say you have to treat them like a criminal, but you got to secure the scene and figure out, kind of get your bearings of what's going on.
Right.
They didn't do that. They didn't do much right at all.
They didn't do their job.
It's at least a 9.9, if not a 10.
Right. So on today's episode, it took us into the shadows surrounding the case, the conspiracies, alternate suspects, and theories that arise when fact alone cannot explain what happened. The Lizzie Borden murders are a puzzle missing too many pieces, which is why people keep trying to fill the gaps. Some theories make her look guilty. Others make her look innocent. And some suggest the truth is stranger than either version.
So my hot take as we wrap this up, I'm going to say Abby maybe promised some uncle some money if he helped get rid of her dad and her mom, stepmom.
You mean Lizzie? You mean Lizzie, not Abby.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. I'm just going off here, going off the rails. Hey, you got something that I want, and you're going to have something that we both want. If you kill him, you can give me some property for doing it, and you'll have all the money and freedom that you want. That's my story. But all these theories, even my crazy crackpot ones, is why this is still a story 130 years later. It refuses to be pinned down. It's not just a crime. It's a mystery that touches psychology, sociology, gender, class, human nature. So in episode 9, we're diving into something even stranger, maybe even a little bit darker. The hauntings, the ghost stories, the supernatural claims, and the cultural legacy that turned Lizzie Borden from suspect into an American icon of the macabre. This story doesn't end with a trial. It echoes through folklore, ghost tourism, paranormal investigations, and pop culture. If you thought the conspiracies were wild, wait until you hear about the hauntings. And remember, make sure you always keep a spirit box on you. And when it's dark and you're trying to discover something, you're trying to see if that ghost is real, just tell yourself, the deeper you dive,
the darker it gets.